Welcome to Facts TV News, where everything is true. Man caught in crossfire doing $2 million armed robbery at Westmoreland supermarket. A man is nursing a gunshot wound in hospital after being struck in a shootout between police and armed robbers at a Chinese-owned supermarket in Darlington, Westmoreland on Tuesday afternoon. The incident took place at the Flying Dragon Shopping Center and Meat Plus supermarket shortly after 2 p.m. Reports from the police are that 3 men, one identified only as Buddy, entered the supermarket where they brandished firearms and ordered the occupants not to move. The gunmen then proceeded to rob a total of $2,270,000 from the owner of the establishment, a Chinese businesswoman. The Darlington police were alerted and 3 officers responded to the report on foot. The report added that, upon their arrival at the scene, the cops were fired at by the robbers. 2 of the officers took evasive action in fear of their lives and returned gunfire in the direction of the gunmen. It is understood that a licensed firearm holder also traded bullets with the gunmen before they fled the scene in a motor car. After the shooting subsided, a civilian turned up to the police station suffering from a gunshot injury in his right arm. The man, who is suspected to have been caught in the crossfire, was assisted to the Savannah Lamar Public General Hospital, where he was treated and admitted in stable condition. No police officer was injured during the incident. The police suspect, however, that one of the gunmen was shot after blood was seen at a nearby vehicle. Investigations are ongoing. Teenage boys charged with robbery. 2 teenage boys have been charged with robbery with aggravation following an incident on Mullines Road in Kingston on Tuesday. Charged are 18-year-old Ollie Davis of Bedward Crescent in Kingston and 16-year-old whose identity has not been released. Reports from the Halfway Tree police are that about 1 p.m., a teenage girl was walking on the intersection of Bedward Crescent when Davis and his accomplice attacked her. She was reportedly grabbed by the boys, who held a ratchet knife at her throat and robbed her of $500. The teens escaped on foot in the area. They were later caught by citizens and handed over to the police. Davis and his accomplice were charged after a question and answer session. Government to spend over $2 billion on Conroe Regional Hospital project. The government will be spending more than $2 million on works for the continued redevelopment of the St. James-based Conroe Regional Hospital, CRH. The objective of the project is to improve service delivery in the public health system by rehabilitating the CRH to include ventilation and air conditioning systems, mechanical, electrical, and plumbing systems, information and communications technology, and equipping the institution. Details of the project are outlined in the 2023-2024 Estimates of Expenditure, which will go before the Standing Finance Committee of the House of Representatives shortly. For the upcoming fiscal year, works are expected to be done to complete Phase 2B, commence design of Phase 3, build turnkey contract for the rehabilitation and redevelopment of floors 1 to 10, and attain 30% completion, and continue procurement of ICT supplies and medical equipment. Up to the end of December 2022, there was 100% completion of Phase 1 and Phase 2, as well as Phase 2A and 80% completion of Phase 2B. This bill is an embarrassment, stated opposition leader Mark Golden.
This bill really is an embarrassment because it represents an approach which Jamaica should have gotten rid of once and for all, and thought it had done in 2016. Prior to the reform of local government, which culminated in 2016, it was the practice for political considerations to guide when local government elections were called, and they were often postponed if the party in power didn't feel that it was to their advantage to keep it at the time when it was due. And there was consensus that that was no longer an acceptable way of moving forward, and that local government was a central part of governance in the country. So the last administration from this side did 2 things. First of all, and this hasn't actually been mentioned in the debate, the Constitution was amended to enshrine local government in the Constitution in 2015. This is the act that did it. Act 14 of 2015. And I'm just going to read the recitals. Whereas a constitutional commission established by Parliament recommended inter alia that provision should be made for the inclusion of the system of local government in the Constitution of Jamaica. And whereas the recommendations of the Constitutional Commission were endorsed by a joint select committee of Parliament. And it goes on. The Act itself amended Section 66 of the Constitution and inserted a new provision in it that says there shall continue to be a democratic system of local government for Jamaica, and it made provision for the holding of local government elections. It didn't prescribe the time frame. The three strategic laws were then passed a year later, in February 2016. One of them, the Local Governance Act, amended the Representation of the People's Act, ROPA, which is the legislation that governs elections in Jamaica, and inserted a new schedule, the 8th schedule. And I think the media need to pay attention to this because they don't seem to understand the situation. It provided for a fixed 4-year cycle for local government elections, with a 90-day window commencing on the 4th anniversary of the last local government elections, in which local government elections must be held. There was no provision for any extension. When COVID licked and Jamaica was reeling, they called a general election in the heights of COVID. It resulted in community spread. Local government elections fell due by February 2021. They came to this Parliament with a bill to extend it for a year, citing COVID as a reason. We didn't oppose it, because although we saw and highlighted the rank hypocrisy in what they were doing, given that they had just called a general election in the height of COVID with devastating consequences for the country, they were extending local government and the period for it by 1 year. But COVID was on the land, and we were responsible, and we said, we understand, we will let it go. February 2022, they brought legislation here. On the very day that the Prime Minister announced in this House that there would be no more need for disaster risk management orders, and social distancing was a thing of the past, and Jamaica was back to normal and was going to be building back for recovery. The very same day, the minister brought another bill to amend the law again, citing COVID as a reason. It was spurious then, and this is spurious now. That year has expired, and they're coming here again because they don't want to call election now, and citing economic reasons for it. The Minister for South East St. Andrew, our Minister, the member for South East St. Andrew, and future Minister of Finance, said pointed out that to be citing economic and financial reasons for undermining democracy in the country and acting inconsistently with the spirit of the Constitution that provides for a democratic system of governance is spurious and disingenuous and cannot be supported. They are collecting, according to the current Minister of Finance, they are collecting over $80 billion from the people in additional tax revenue this fiscal year over what they budgeted. And I must tell you, that the last fiscal year, they collected $99 billion, more than they had originally budgeted for that fiscal year. And this coming fiscal year, he has mentioned how much more again is going to be taken from the people. And you can't use $1.3 billion of that to make the people decide who their local representatives should be. It is a disgrace, and we will not support it. The 2016 was supposed to be a change, a more mature approach to this matter. No more would the political shenanigans hold sway. Well, under this minister and this government, they are still holding sway. We don't support it. We will vote against this bill. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Please remember to subscribe, like, share, and click the notification bell